Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Welcome to the special episode of This Just In Radio. We're broadcasting live from ViVE23 in Nashville. First, I want to thank CHIME and DHI for inviting us to their theater. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. We have a terrific show this morning with a great lineup of thought leaders from the industry. Our theme will be focusing on priorities and challenging of today's hospital CIOs. My first guest needs no introduction and is a revered guest of the show, Steve Lieber, Chief Analytics Officer, Digital Health Insights, CHIME. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Justin. It's great to see you again.
It's always great to be on air with you. I tell everybody this story. I'm going to continue to tell it for the rest of my time, but you're the reason this show exists. We've been doing it 10 years, but you're my very first guest back in the Venture Forum 2015 in HIMSS in Chicago. So it started there. You helped me kick it all off. I'm grateful for the opportunity, grateful for your friendship through now almost 20 years.
I was going to say, the story goes back farther than that, doesn't it?
It does. But again, welcome stage. Great to have you here. So first of all, tell me how, the show's been so far for you last couple of days. Been busy. You've been here for a few days.
It's been fantastic, Justin. There's an evolution that you go through with events, and this is only year 2 of ViVE. And it's already well down the path of evolution. We learned a lot last year in Miami Beach, brought that learning into Nashville. We've got over 7,600 people here, which is just about a 50% increase. Now, I'm going to say, though, we're going to cap it. We're not going to let it keep growing.
Okay.
We're kind of toying around with the idea of this thing should peak out at 10,000.
Right.
And so it's possible next year in Los Angeles.
Love it.
Looking forward to it. It's possible that people might not be able to get in because we're going to hold to that. There's a benefit in size, both benefit of big size as well as more manageable. And what we sort of concluded at this event is it's an exclusive audience, very high level, and we want to maintain that and maintain to a degree an intimacy. Now, how intimate is 10,000 people? Still a lot of people. But now the layout here in Nashville, and it'll be repeated in Los Angeles, creates very easy access to a whole lot of activities. We brought the content down on the floor. So we've got these huge stages in all the corners here. So there's only one place to go down here, and you can eat. I'm looking across the floor here, the puppy park over there.
Exactly.
You've got really fantastic content in the theaters, and then we've got 600 plus companies ranging from people that are truly wet behind the ears. I mean, they're just brand new to well-established, long-standing technology companies, and so it really has been a fantastic couple of days already, and just hearing the conversation and buzz, I think people are really responding very positively to the model that we've created.
They are, and there's a great level of energy here. You guys are doing a phenomenal job. Second year, over 7,600 attendees, phenomenal. LA next year, February 25th, I believe it starts. So everybody starts to mark your calendar. Certainly if you're going to cap it, and I agree with the intimacy. You can meet anybody that you want here. You can walk around. I've almost met every single person that I wanted to, and I'll meet some more. I'll be here through tomorrow afternoon. So you've achieved that goal. Let's take a quick step back, though. People who may not know, how did ViVE come to life? I mean, this is between health and CHIME. You guys came together. Why?
Yeah, well, the health conference, it's in the fall, had been operating for probably about 3 years when we first started the conversation. And there's a little bit of history as well between me and some of the staff over there. They used to work for me when I worked at HIMSS. Yes. And so, you start to sit down and have conversations with folks and have worked with before. It's like, well, what if? And what we saw at CHIME was a spirit in the health DNA in how they do conferences, and really liked the energy that they brought to their events. And they were focused more on the business investor side with health. And at the time, unfortunately, the relationship between HIMSS and CHIME was falling apart. And so CHIME was saying, okay, where should we play? We have a responsibility to drive education and professional development with our executive audience. And so it just sort of evolved into a natural partnership that leverages very different capabilities at Health and at CHIME. And the combination of the two together is just really dynamic, as evident by what we see here.
For sure. So I guess bringing together this type of focus, these audiences, you guys, CHIME is traditionally focused on the CIO and that C-suite, and you're expanding that a little bit, obviously keeping a great thought leader level with good strategy. So tell me how CHIME is helping CIOs today, specifically.
Yeah. Well, and I like to talk on both points about the traditional core audience of CHIME, the CIO, as well as the broader audience that we're doing under the DHX brand. One of the things that Russ Branzell, the CEO, and I know you've got him, I think, tomorrow morning, said, a strategic view he had was we need to go beyond our traditional audience. And so CHIME is very dedicated to that core audience. The boot camps and programs that CHIME produces are very targeted at the professional development of the current generation of CIOs and future generations. But beyond that, there is knowledge and learning that needs to extend to what is an ever-increasing number of executives that are involved in this area. Digital officers, strategy officers, innovation officers, on and on. And so we said, all right, we got to protect the brand, got to protect CHIME. And so we're very focused on that audience. But let's go out and start to look more broadly at the executive levels that are in different places, that are users of technology, buyers of technology, and that sort. And that's what DHX evolved into. And so, now we've got an audience of about 300,000, which is a significant X over the 3,000 members of CHIME. But it just, I think, highlights the importance of being able to expand your reach in order to communicate a message, to be able to extend the learning opportunities. And, as someone famously said, I didn't realize healthcare could be so difficult. It is. And
it
so,
is, absolutely.
And so having that broader audience and being able to learn from them. This is a two-way relationship. We're not just pushing stuff out. We're also reaching out and bringing content in from these other audiences, because in provider settings, you don't operate alone. We learned that a long time ago. It's not technology projects, it's enterprise projects, it's patient projects, that sort of thing. And there are multiple players involved. And you got to get everybody together to do it right.
I love it. Excellent. Absolutely. Steve Lieber, thank you so much for joining the show, my friend. Great to see you as always.
Thank you, Justin. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Awesome.
All right, brother.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Excited.
Same here.
We're live. We're live.
We are live at ViVE. We are. How are you, my friend?
I am excited. Eager to chat with you.
Amen.
You're the convener. The convener that brings the great conversations forward. Thanks for having me.
So Aneesh Chopra, President, Care Journey, good longtime friend, great friend of the show. First of all, how's ViVE been for you?
Oh, it's great. It's a chance to reconnect with old friends. But I view these events as an opportunity to call to action the private sector to move forward on issues that the government wants us to work on, but hasn't quite yin and the yang. We haven't quite got the final answer from the government, but we've got a direction. So we got to rally the troops, and all I need is a half a dozen early adopters, and we can make magic.
You got it, my friend. So for you, those who don't know, Aneesh, country's first CTO over a decade ago. You're obviously just mentioned a big advocate of public-private collaboration. So first, what are some of the things that you're focused on that you want to bring to bear and for all of us to know and see?
Well, listen, presidents make their key priorities known on day one. For President Obama, it was to create a more open and transparent and collaborative government. And that was the reason, in part, my office was created. President Biden made health equity his top priority, and on day one said, I want the industry, the whole agency and government and the country to move more towards understanding and therefore managing social needs. So I am here in part because there's a technology gap on how we identify individuals that are food insecure and housing insecure, because it's not a standardized data field in our regulation. So we need the industry to come together to standardize what it means to be of these social needs, and then how to work on ways to mitigate them. So we're working on a program called Sync for Social Needs, which is a public-private collaboration. I'm also working on ways that we can unlock the power of the Cures Act regulations into the EHR system. So I'm calling this the era of bulk fire networks. Perhaps we'll get into some of that. So yesterday's session with Mickey to help bring people into the foray about what's possible. This is no longer an R&D experiment. We can go into production with 95% of the certified EHRs making the 12/31 deadline. So there are a couple of these public-private partnerships on the mind and a few more cooking in the oven.
Yep. So tell me about, what are your thoughts on the evolution of TEFCA, the fire pilot project, and all that?
Okay, so this is a controversial question, and you teed me up in a way that I want to take a moment to peel the onion back.
Yes, please.
So it is both important but also unrelated. So we've created a framework with TEFCA to stitch together all of the networks that have been born on the treatment use case that interacted with health systems through the traditional document-based exchange model.
Yes.
So the verb of TEFCA is that you bring people together under a common agreement. But the noun of TEFCA, the requirement for IHE profiles and all of that, the noun is less useful. The verb is critical. So the question now, and this is the big debate that we were having over the week, is do I wait in sequence for the TEFCA networks to get their act together and launch on the current noun before we can get started on the future state? Or could we run in parallel? And I think Mickey's call to action was very clear yesterday. We must move as quickly as possible for a TEFCA fire framework.
Yes.
And there is a TEFCA fire roadmap, but it's currently written to be sequential. Right. Wait for us to get our stuff act together. I don't think it should be sequential. It should be parallel. So I expect to work on half a dozen bulk fire networks that are in the spirit of TEFCA, waiting for that bridge from whenever TEFCA connects the bridge from the legacy environment to the fire environment. So we'll have a pathway forward, but I think it's going to be a very interesting ride. There may be private networks that get launched first natively in fire before we go to the national networks.
So my show focuses a lot on best practices and like tangible next steps, actual next steps. If someone wants to learn more about that framework and how they can take action in that and make a difference, where do they go? Where should I point them to?
Well, I would say right now, when you read the TEFCA Fire Roadmap, which is published on the ONC website, for the nerds out there, that's me, it's stage 2, facilitated point-to-point exchange.
That's what I wanted.
And so if you read that technical design and stripped away all of the legacy nouns, you would say, what would I do today, MacGyver style, if I was given access to the bulk fire infrastructure on the plan and the provider side? I could actually connect a facilitated point-to-point network, and we're hoping to bring that up. We heard from Multicare yesterday that they're eager to move forward for a quality use case, and so we'll start to see more coalitions of the willing get going, and that will be the announcement. So we have Sync for Social Needs is named with about a dozen partners, Epic, Meditech, Cerner, and then we have a soon-to-be-announced series of bulk fire networks, and we'll hopefully do that in the coming weeks, if not months, but we'll get it done in calendar year 23.
Love it, love it. So a lot of CIOs here, what should they be thinking about when it comes to technology in the organization? There's a lot on their plates. We've had so many conversations the last couple of days, even here on stage, but what should CIOs be thinking about with their technology stack and their stack?
Here is the call to action, and if it can indulge me for a minute.
Please.
Their internal demand signal will largely reflect fee-for-service medicine priorities.
Yes.
And so they have to meet the mark of today's demand signal. The regulatory demand signal is a future for value-based care. And so the delicate balance for a CIO is, when do I move towards a future use case that's a demand signal for the industry but may not be a demand signal at my institution?
That's right.
And can I have a team A, team B approach so that I'm ready and capable, so that the minute the business leaders flip to value-based and they're like, all of a sudden, we need to have a friendly, collaborative payer data sharing agreement, not an antagonistic, revenue cycle battle royale. You don't want to say, oh, that's a nice idea. I need 2 years to get my infrastructure ready to meet that use case. So this is a challenge for CIOs. Don't be the bad guy. Congress said No Surprises Act. We have to stop emergency, all this crappy surprise billing in emergency rooms. Yep. What happened? The CIOs said, oh, I don't know how to do this. So we've delayed saving people from this scourge of surprise billing because IT couldn't get its act together. That's unacceptable, Justin. Not in your world, not in my world. So we got to be balanced and expect that the demand signal for the future will come.
Yep. No, actually, one of my investments, we actually navigated that successfully, but people couldn't implement it. They just weren't ready for it, but we actually we built it so they could be ready, but I'm on the same page with you, my brother. Last question, thinking about the crystal ball, the proverbial crystal ball, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll even push us a couple of years out even more. What do you see as a key strategy or trend that we got to navigate in 3 years, 3 to 5 years from now, if CIOs and health systems, even providers, need to be ready for?
All right, here's my call to action.
Love it.
I see a new customer for the CIO community to serve inside their enterprise. That'll be a health information fiduciary. So there are parts of the organization that operate like BAAs. I want to extend my capability, add a digital front door, add this technical capability, etc. But it's largely on the incentives of the current system as it operates. But the health information fiduciary is almost decoupled from the legacy infrastructure. What you hear in the debate today is that, oh my goodness, the third-party apps, the consumer-designated apps, oh, they could be horrible, there's no HIPAA protections, it's bad, bad, bad. When those organizations that are attacking the consumer-designated apps don't realize, you're looking in the mirror, brother and sister, because you will be a consumer-designated app.
Got it.
You may not be a third-party app, but you're going to be a health information fiduciary that says to your customers, I will help you bring in your data outside of our enterprise and work with you to make sense of it. And my passion at Care Journey is that we will incorporate high-quality provider ratings so that you can route people to the best navigated point for their health status, almost independent of what your internal enterprise objectives might be. Health information fiduciaries could be disruptors coming out of the Silicon Valley ecosystem, but more likely than not, they're going to be extensions of the incumbents who got religion that they want to be advocates for people under a new digital Hippocratic oath. And Care Journey is here to support that enterprise because that's the market we need.
I love it. We never spend time on Care Journey. We've got 90 seconds. Tell me what's next for Care Journey.
Well, today was an exciting day for us. Call me the honorary chairman of the Glenn Tolman fan club. We announced a partnership with Transcarent.
Love it.
We've been largely working on the risk-bearing networks, the Medicare risk-bearing networks, and getting into those that have commercial organization interests. It turns out that the quality analytics, who are the high-quality providers, is absolutely critical for improving the vision that Transcarent has laid out to help employees get to the best possible care at lowest possible cost and highest possible quality. Good thing those are not all they're all aligned in the objectives. So today we announced that Transcarent is going to partner with Care Journey to unlock our quality open data quality engine for the benefit of their growing network of employers. So I think this is an opportunity to really help people make the best decisions at every single step of their care journey.
Congratulations. Love it. Love Glenn.
All right.
Excellent. Aneesh Chopra, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Take care. Have a great rest of your conference.
All right. Have fun.
Thank you. Oh, and Mickey, right on time. Perfect timing, Mickey. Well, Micky Trapathi, National Coordinator for Health IT at HHS. Great to have you back on air. First of all, how's the conference been so far?
It's been great. Really, really awesome.
You spoke this morning before here?
I did. I spoke this morning, was on a couple panels yesterday, but, you know, a lot of energy and enthusiasm, which is awesome.
Yes.
And it's really a great venue.
It is. So Steve Lieber was my first guest. We opened the show together, and he mentioned that we're probably going to cap the ViVE at 10,000 to keep and bottle this energy.
Yep.
So we don't get too big and kind of just, we lose the quality. We want to maintain the quality and this interaction, the strategy, the engagement. So I think it's kind of cool. So you hit the nail on the head. So what did you talk about before you came up here? What was your main stage keynote discussion?
Just the usual health IT rigmarole. No, I talked about the sort of the priority areas that ONC has. So just overarching theme. We are pushing really, really hard.
Good.
We're pushing really hard to.
We need that.
Enable the industry to do what I think the industry wants to do, actually. When I've been out in the market and just working with stakeholders, there's so many organizations who actually want to do a set of things, but they feel like they're unilaterally disarming if they're the only ones who do it.
Right.
In a fragmented healthcare delivery system, that's really hard. And so in some ways, almost in a sort of perverse way, people are like, if someone would just tell us that we need to do that, it'd be a lot easier for certain things. I mean, not everything.
Right.
So that's, we're pushing really, really hard. I'm pushing really, really hard to get everything done that we can get done in the, in the time that we have here. I break it out into 4 themes. Building the digital foundation. We've got electronic health records. There's still gaps. How do we complete that? Second, how do we make interoperability easier? All the things Dee was talking about, TEFCA, APIs. Third is, how do we motivate more information sharing, right? We can give people tools, but as we know, they may or may not use them.
Right.
And we can do more to encourage that with information blocking regulations. And then finally, how do we think about appropriate uses of data? Now that we're making more data available, you've got health equity, you've got algorithms, you've got very serious privacy considerations, following the Dobbs decision, Supreme Court. All those things are really important areas for us to be thinking about.
Excellent. Love it. So with TEFCA moving along now, how and why should this be a priority for hospital CIOs? Because that's mainly the attendance here at ViVE. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Do you want to be connected to other organizations?
Absolutely.
You want to build one interface that allows you to connect to, not everything, but more and more of what you need to do with other providers, with payers, with public health agencies? Or do you want to keep building bespoke interfaces, having a huge interface team that builds these brittle bespoke interfaces that don't get you on what you want to be able to do? And do you want an easy way to communicate to patients? We're connected to TEFCA. We're connected to the interoperability network that all of you want that's going to support better patient care. I think, in a nutshell, that's what a hospital CIO ought to be thinking about.
Love it.
It's a frustration of too much interoperability, I think, that we have in some cases where, they're thinking about, I got 10 different things and each of them is a different interface. Is that scalable? No.
So you just released the interoperability in methods of exchange among hospitals. What are some of the highlights from that, and what should a hospital be looking at in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, there's information sharing continues to grow as the data shows. Not surprisingly, we've spent $35 billion in federal health IT incentives, at least an equal amount on the private side, and that doesn't include the blood, sweat, and tears of the hospital administrators, the physicians, the nurses, everyone who's implementing those. So if we weren't seeing an uptick, I mean, you would almost have to, sort of consciously try not to do anything with those systems. But that said, we know there's still a lot more we can do. It's still not the natural instinct of most organizations to share information.
Right.
My mother broke her hip last August, and we brought her to a hospital. They're on a very good EHR system. Transferred her to a rehab hospital. They're on a very good EHR system. I won't name names, but they're very good EHR systems, let's just say. I know they're connected literally in front of me, as I pointed out to them. It's like, you guys are doing this right in front of me. They're printing out her record, handing it to us and saying, please bring it to the next hospital where they will upload it. They'll scan it and upload it into their EHR. And I'm like, have you guys heard of care quality, Commonwealth? Because you are absolutely connected in the back end. The frontline folks are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That would be awesome, that kind of system, right? So we still have a lot of work to do to say, how do we make that the organization instinct of every frontline person to say, yes, it's electronic, it's just going to go, and I don't even have to think about it, rather than still resorting to, yes, let's fax, let's scan, let's hand it to the patient.
And that was in Boston, I assume? Was that?
It was outside of Boston.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's tough to see with all the work that we've done in the past 10, 15, 20 years on that.
Yep.
So looking forward a little bit this year, what are some of the priorities that you and the ONC team will be working on? Also, you want us to, kind of help and support as well.
Yeah. So let me dive deeper into the areas that I just talked about. So building that digital foundation. We have a tremendous foundation that we've built over a relatively short period of time, roughly 10 years, transformed an industry from something like 10% adoption of electronic health records to 97% of hospitals, as reflected in that brief, and over 80% of ambulatory providers now using not just electronic health records, but certified electronic health records.
Right.
I would dare say, you could not look at any other sector of an economy as complex as ours and see that kind of transformation in the use of technology down at the ground level in such a short period of time. I mean, I just don't even know of another example. So that's been tremendous. But we still need to fill in those gaps. Data standards. Quality of data is still an issue. We're exchanging more data, and that's just exposing that people aren't using standards. And now I've got all this dirty data, all that that I can't make sense of. So we're pushing really hard in the U.S. core data for interoperability, working with federal partners on having them base their programs on the U.S. core data for interoperability. We're working hard with our federal agencies partners on how can we exercise our levers to help fill in the gaps. Behavioral health, big priority for the administration as well as for the Congress. LTPAC, another huge area that didn't get the benefit of those incentives. How do we work with our federal agency partners to say, well, each of our programs is sort of small, and it's certainly not $35 billion, but if we're all rowing in the same direction, we actually might be able to provide more resources to those organizations to allow them to make judicious incremental investments in health IT that would really benefit what it is they're doing. Third is really pushing hard on APIs, both with ONC. Standardized EHR, certified EHR developers required December 31st, 2022 to make available a FHIR R4 standard API to all of their customers for whatever purpose the customer wants. And importantly, and most people, people often lose sight of this, CMS rolling out in their rules that payers are required to make available information to their members, to providers, and to other payers using the same standard FHIR R4 API that ONC is approved and certified for electronic health record vendors. So you start to see the building, this constellation of APIs based on this standard, open industry standard, using all the federal levers that we have. TEFCA is the other layer on that. We're pushing really hard on network interoperability. I think Dee Dee probably touched on that a little bit. That's about, sort of document exchange as it's supported today. But importantly, and I think where the future is going, is network infrastructure to support FHIR APIs to connect with each other. So we don't need to broker a transaction between two FHIR APIs. God intended APIs to connect with each other directly. That's okay. But the issue is, how do I know the electronic endpoints of the 33 organizations I want to connect to? How do I know that they're playing by the same rules? So we have some contractual agreement. How do I know that they have security protocols in place and that we have secure transmission, between our organizations? That's what FHIR network infrastructure, or a TEFCA network infrastructure can support, what I call trust services. So I'm a FHIR API, with a payer. I can look up, here are the 15 provider organizations who I want to be able to connect to and get data from. There are their electronic endpoints, fire off my APIs, get the data in a very scalable way. And then finally, appropriate use of data. Health equity by design, key administration priority. How do we get better and more consistent capture of health equity data to be able to use it in more effective ways to mitigate some of the health equity issues that we see out in the market? And then importantly, algorithms. Everyone's talking about algorithms. And algorithms are really important in healthcare, but we need some kind of process for saying, how do we determine what's an appropriate use of an algorithm in any particular setting? How do we get better data to create higher quality algorithms, right? Dirty data is going to create a dirty algorithm. And that's one of the big issues that we have. So these things are connected. And then finally, we've all got big privacy issues that we have to tackle. You think about the issues that are going on with the weaponization of data that is shared among providers for care purposes. But in the post-op world, that can be used against the patient and against the provider in ways that they may not anticipate, and in ways that lots of us in the industry didn't anticipate. So another focus area for all of us in the administration.
Excellent point. So for people to learn, a lot of my show, we focus on best practices, but also tangible next steps, actionable next steps. Where would you point them? Is it healthit.gov to begin to learn more about what your office is doing and how they can involve and where they can volunteer?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a number of things. Healthit.gov, we have listservs. Our blog, we've pushed really hard to communicate better. So one of the things that I've done since I came in is we publish a blog a week.
Yeah, it's awesome.
A blog a week. You're going to get a blog a week. So you subscribe to that, it'll get pushed to you, and we try to communicate everything
Very
about what we're doing
yeah.
externally, internally. And so then there's a ton of stuff on healthit.gov about information blocking and others. I would also point to the Sequoia Project, the RCE website, which is a great resource for learning about TEFCA and all the information that's available there. And then finally, call us, email us. You haven't called in so long. My email is micky.trapathi@hhs.gov. We will always set up a meeting with stakeholders, and we'll always, happy to help educate you on what we're doing. But most important to us, learn about how we can help you better support what it is we're all trying to accomplish in healthcare.
Yeah, and I'll actually second that. You guys, I've been working in partnership with ONC for, 20 years now or so, Dr. David Brewer days. But you guys have always had open doors, always listen, always, are pragmatic with us in the industry, and just are phenomenal collaborators between the public and private collaboration. So your office is fantastic. Steve and the whole team. I saw Jody Daniels actually yesterday. It was really cool. Some from you back in the day. Yeah. But you guys have a great office. You run a great ship, and I appreciate you and all your time that you invest.
Great. Thanks so much.
Micky Trapathi, thank you so much.
Really fun being here.
Thanks, Micky. And just want to say thank you very much to Roberta and Carol and Greg and the whole team at Healthcare Now Radio and CHIME and DHI for letting us use the stage. Thank you to everyone who's joining us here in the audience and obviously everybody listening online. And I'm Justin Barnes. Thank you for tuning in for this special episode of This Just In Radio.